We're reaching into the archives today. On a cold and wet day back in March, I recorded one of my first ever rounds of golf. And since that time, we've built a community of 10,000 subscribers, and as of today, over 1 million views. So if you haven't subscribed, please do to catch more of these rounds. On this day in March, we were playing the beautiful Seymour Golf Course in North Vancouver, tipping it out at only about 6,400 yards, and starting the day with probably the most gettable par 5 in Vancouver, playing about 440 yards downhill. My drive was just fine, but pulling the forward for the approach, I hooked it into a greenside bunker. This effort out of the bunker isn't fantastic, but I will start the day with a nice downhiller for birdie. But oddly, I leave it short and tap in for par. Here at elevation, early in the morning in March, there's still sub-freezing temperatures, so on the second hole we're playing the course's only temp green of the day, and I hit a decent drive and a little pitch out with a 7-iron. And I will clean this up for a par on the temp green second. The third hole demands exactly this shape off the tee, but don't get used to it because the hole, and really the round, kind of goes downhill from here. I chunk my approach here and it lands above the water before slipping back in. And now from about 50 yards I'm trying to get up and down for bogey. But that's another putt we can't find, and we'll take our first double of the day. I get away with a bad swing on the tee of 4. And in hindsight, reflecting on this round, I can start to see right here what I started doing wrong. This shot was 160-something, playing 180-something, and I'm thinking about pretty much everything but putting solid contact on the ball. And my approach shot, like many today, is topped. And yada yada, we'll hack our way up the hole and make a bogey. I'll be sure to get back to Seymour soon with my new filming rig, because this is actually a beautiful shot with major elevation change, and I don't feel my camera captured it all that well. It did capture that perfectly flubbed chip very well, and we'll make another bogey. 6 is the best hole on this golf course, and for my money, one of the better par 5s around. It has an uphill first shot, and a somewhat blind second shot, and believe it or not, that one wasn't quite as bad as it looked. And the downhill approach shot is framed by the beautiful deep cove that you can see in the background here. I had 4 feet for birdie there, but that's the kind of day we're having today. This is another pretty weak drive, and a very weak top. And this is maybe the only good thing we did the entire day after a miss, which was get up and down from about 90 yards. 185 is probably the worst number in my bag. I had it several times today, and that was the only time I did it well. I get aggressive with the downhiller for birdie because the greens are running slow. And then I very uncharacteristically miss a 2-footer for yet another bogey. 9 is really the capstone on a horrible 9 holes. A bad drive, bad decision making out of a bunker, that 185 number again. A bunker shot that's not exactly terrific. And if a 3-putt on the last hole wasn't enough, that's a lag putt that doesn't get close. And we're going to close the 9 with a double bogey. And I know that the flat stick is usually the best club in my bag and draws a lot of positive comments, but feel free to take some schadenfreude that even good putters can go out on particular days and look like they've never putted before. If you want to talk about really not being in the zone, I hit that drive and thought it was going to be terrible, and it was my best of the day. And a lot of golfers can tell you that there's probably not a worse feeling than standing over the ball and not knowing where it's going. And that's certainly how I felt today. Here I'm trying to be cute putting with a hybrid, and it's just a pretty weak effort. And the back 9 is going to start like the front, with just some bad golf shots and a bogey. This is a chunked 6-iron to the front of the green. And with about 30-35 feet up the hill, there's no reason to leave this one 8 feet short. Unless it's to make our 4th, I think, consecutive 3-putt. Yikes. This is a drivable hole in the summer. And with not a ton of confidence, I decide that 7-iron is probably the best way to get this one tidy. And for the first time all day, I have a pretty good look at birdie, but will settle for par. With the tees forward on 13, there's really not much of an excuse to do anything but drive or wedge and have a good look at birdie. And my drive was okay, but this approach shot is probably even worse than the shot tracer makes it appear. There is no confidence in that chip with the sand wedge. And just for fun, we're going to have one more 3-putt today.
He's back. He's back.
Well, Jared says I'm back, but more like hitting the green on a par 3 is suddenly a major accomplishment for the day. But at least it is a par. The 15th hole is a tough dogleg right uphill. And even though I hit my driver okay, it's sort of the wrong direction for the hole. And approaching with that 185 number again, it's the typical miss with my 4 hybrid, almost a snap hook. I do have a look at salvaging par, but you've seen how the flat stick is treating me today. 16 is stroke hole 1 on the card, and it requires you getting your drive over a ridge to have any real approach. And I was fortunate to do that, and with the 185 number actually hit the green. And go figure, I'll have a tap-in par on the hardest hole on the course, despite making absolutely horrible numbers on some of the easier holes like this one. This is another driver wedge, and I have about 25 feet for birdie here, and just don't get it close enough, and it's another 3-putt. On 18, the wheels come off if they haven't already. I'm trying to get back to a fairway on the left with a 3-wood out of a side hill lie, so let's chalk that up to bad decision-making and execution. Then I punch back to the fairway on 18 before dumping my approach into the water. So nothing like trying to get up and down for double, which we fail to do, and close the day with a triple bogey, and playing apparently like a 14 handicap, and I can certainly say that it looked and felt worse. And if you look at the bottom line here, 39 putts is about as bad a day as I'll ever have on a golf course. In fact, if I had just rolled my average number of putts that round, it would have been a 79 instead of an 88.